I'm a therapist working for a secret government agency that studies the supernatural. My latest patient, known as the Bye Bye Mommy, claimed she only takes children who say those words before vanishing forever. I'm a therapist at a maximum security prison. I accidentally let an inmate escape. Venting. Between 1971 and 1978, a series of child kidnappings plagued Pierce County, Washington. The victims were abducted from locations typically associated with family fun, such as movie theaters, bowling alleys, playgrounds, and in one case, Point Defiance State Park. According to witnesses, each child vanished after being yelled at, grabbed, or otherwise publicly disciplined by a parent, after which the children went away to pout or cry and simply never returned. 12 children eventually vanished in this manner. In November 1978, a bizarre mass grave was discovered in rural Eatonville, Washington. Within the grave were the remains of 23 children in various stages of decay. The oldest remains were skeletal, while the freshest still had somewhat recognizable facial features. Each child was laid out under a blanket with evidence of having been tucked in, and had a makeshift pillow under their heads and a toy of some kind pressed into their arms. At autopsy, all of the children were found to have moss, leaves, twigs, and tree bark in their stomachs. 7 appeared to have died of intestinal blockage related to this peculiar diet. The others died of starvation. Most disturbingly, 6 of the children bore injuries consistent with long-term physical abuse. 8 bore no such injuries. 9 were too decomposed to definitively assess the presence of injuries. The discovery of the corpses was handled with supreme delicacy by the Pierce County Sheriff, who had prior experiences with the agency of Helping Hands and recognized that this discovery was in line with AHH's scope of responsibilities. The agency promptly launched an investigation. 12 of the corpses were linked to the abduction victims. An additional 8 children were identified during the course of the investigation. 3 of the victims remain unidentified to this day. After interviewing witnesses to the known abductions, the agency determined that a woman with distinctive red hair and a mildly deformed face had been present immediately prior to each disappearance. Adult witnesses were uniformly unhelpful. However, witnesses who were minors or had been minors at the time of sighting provided valuable information. The most detailed eyewitness report is consistent with other known reports. It has been summarized below. 5-year-old Brianna S. was at a pizza restaurant with an attached arcade with her parents and brother. Approximately an hour after arrival, Brianna asked her mother for additional game tokens. Her mother refused loudly, asking if Brianna thought they were made of money. Brianna argued, at which point her father began to yell at her. 2. The witness described the father's tirade as an expletive-laden temper tantrum that shocked witnesses. Brianna began to cry, at which point her father spanked her for being a selfish crybaby. Brianna broke away and ran off weeping. When her father attempted to follow, a staff member intervened, resulting in an altercation. Brianna fled to a corner to cry in private. A few minutes later, a woman with red hair and an unusual face approached Brianna. Brianna initially pulled away, perhaps put off by the woman's peculiar appearance, but the woman appeared to quickly win her over by asking Brianna her favorite food. Brianna responded that her favorite food was ice cream. The woman asked Brianna if she wanted to go get an ice cream. Brianna agreed. Other children in the vicinity, including the primary witness, clamored to tag along, but the woman gently refused, saying that Brianna deserved a treat because she had bad parents. The woman took Brianna by the hand and instructed her to look over at her parents, who were still engaged in conflict with arcade staff. She gave a little wave in their direction. "Before we go, say bye-bye, Mommy." Brianna obediently repeated, "Bye-bye, Mommy." The moment the phrase was uttered, the juvenile witnesses began to panic. According to the primary witness, this is because the phrase was consistent with retellings of a local urban legend known, naturally, as the Bye-Bye Mommy. The juveniles tried to raise the alarm, but the ongoing altercation between staff and Brianna's parents rendered them unheard as the red-haired woman melted into the crowd with Brianna by her side. Brianna was never seen again. After exhumation from the mass grave in Eatonville, Brianna's body was among those that showed signs of long-term physical mistreatment. The agency investigated the so-called bye-bye mommy for weeks. According to urban folklore, she was a vengeful boogeyman who spirited away disobedient children, particularly children who defied their parents in public. Information was scant for such a widespread tale, primarily consisting of 3 rumors. A. The entity looked deformed, or so the rumor went, because her mean husband punched her so hard that he broke her face. B. After selecting a victim, the entity insisted he or she say, "Bye-bye, mommy," before kidnapping them. C. Children taken by the bye-bye mommy were never seen again, resulting in considerable fear among local children at the time. Disturbingly, nearly half of the victims exhumed from the mass grave were never reported missing. As previously stated, some were never identified. However, of the unreported victims that were identified, 1 was undocumented, 4 were homeless runaways, and 3 had been in foster care at the time of disappearance. The parents of the runaways and the guardians of the foster children either already had, or were later discovered to have, histories of mistreating minors in their care. This information contradicts the prevailing rumor that the entity punished disobedient children by way of kidnapping and lends credence to her claims that she only took, or in her words, rescued, children living with subpar guardians. The agency experienced great difficulty in tracking this entity, as it was impossible to identify and set watch over every victim of child neglect or abuse in Pierce County. Personnel decided to stake out the mass grave site. After 8 weeks, the entity finally returned to the grave site. When she saw that the remains of the children were no longer present, she flew into a rage. As is common with such entities, the high motion disrupted her physical state and she began to morph, assuming a disturbing appearance that presented signs of decay, bodily trauma, and non-human proportions. Agency personnel failed to apprehend her using standard methods, in the process placing themselves in mortal danger. One agent, thinking quickly, screamed that she needed the entity's help to rescue her baby brother, who was being abused by her stepfather. Please note that this agent had neither a baby brother nor a stepfather. She stated that her brother had prayed to Jesus for the bye-bye mommy to help him and was waiting for her to rescue him. Due to her distress over the missing bodies, the entity did not, or perhaps could not, resume normal proportions, but she followed the agent in order to help this non-existent baby brother. The agent directed the entity to the agency's nearest field location, whose personnel were equipped to capture and transport the entity. Once in custody, the agency was able to trace the entity's origins quite easily. Before her death, the bye-bye mommy was a woman with multiple complaints of child abuse and 1 charge of neglect. Shortly before her death, she sent her young daughter to live with the child's equally unfit father after the child upset her. This was the last time she ever saw her daughter. Remorse quickly set in. She attempted to retrieve her daughter for the next 3 months, but was unsuccessful. One night, she had a nightmare in which her daughter was emaciated and panicking as a pack of monsters smothered her. The nightmare was so powerful that upon waking, she immediately called emergency services before driving to her ex's house, a trip of approximately 35 minutes. By the time she arrived, EMS was on site and had confirmed the child's death. In a fit of rage, the mother attacked her ex as the police escorted him out of the house. The ex hit her back with enough force to break her jaw and cheekbone. She then threw herself in front of an oncoming EMS vehicle, killing herself. Suffice to say, she did not stay dead. While issues arise in assigning human standards of sanity, insanity, and culpability to our extraordinary inmates, it is my opinion that the bye-bye mommy is not sane. Contrary to the belief that she abducted children to punish them, she believes she was saving them. Had she been a more competent and substantially less narcissistic protector, perhaps she could have. Instead, she held her victims captive at an undisclosed location in rural Pierce County until they died. The entity insists she took her victims to a beautiful home she built after her death and fed them the most delicious food in the world. Initially, this claim was completely dismissed by agency personnel. Later assessment of the entity's abilities, however, showed that she is capable of throwing an immersive glamour, something akin to a full-body virtual reality experience. In her own words, I took these babies away from hell to a heaven with a beautiful house, friendly pets, and delicious food. A place where treats grow on trees and nothing is ever dirty, where a mother loves them and the children are happy with me forever. Needless to say, the entity is a profoundly unreliable narrator, and caution must be exercised at all times when engaging with her. The source of the entity's glamour casting appears derives from a coping mechanism of, for lack of a better term, rewriting history. Her personal mental instability and immense guilt over the death of her daughter led her to create a false history in which she is an ideal mother. Through processes not yet understood, the power of this delusion increased substantially at the time of her death, enabling her to design, bring into being, and inhabit a false reality in which she is a perfect parental figure. Most impressively, she is able to bring others into this false reality alongside her. This explains several things about her behavior, such as the fact that the kidnapped children never attempted to escape the entity, as well as the fact that their digestive tracts were full of inedible matter. The entity was making the children, and herself, perceive twigs, leaves, and bark as delicious food. Without children to save, the entity's internal landscape and false reality have grown substantially more destructive. That she exists in a state of perpetual anguish cannot be denied. The entity's prognosis is very poor. Due to her instability, her substantial mental suffering, and the danger she poses, the agency long ago made the decision to terminate her. Unfortunately, despite numerous efforts with every tool and method the agency possesses, termination had been unsuccessful. One agent proposed a pilot program wherein the entity might help identify and rescue abused children, but administration is of the opinion that the incredible complications inherent in such a proposal and the reliance on local law enforcement to maintain secrecy render this plan impossible. Further, administration believes that even if these complications could be neutralized in some way, the entity's instability renders her entirely unsuitable for such work. There is also the issue of her relative youth. She is undoubtedly a young entity. In the way that young rattlesnakes are more dangerous than older ones, so are young inmates. They cannot control themselves, they possess little to no emotional regulation, and they wield their abilities thoughtlessly. Substantial attempts have been made by staff psychiatrist Dr. Wingeride to rewire the entity's internal reality to something more pleasant. All attempts have failed, and in one case, agency personnel perished as a result. The consensus is that the agency is unable to utilize this entity or rehabilitate her, or even soothe her. At this time, the entity will be held indefinitely, pending discovery of a successful mode of termination. Subject: the Bye-Bye Mommy. Classification string: non-cooperative/indestructible/chthonic/protean/moderate/hemithios. Interviewer: Rochelle B. Date: November 18, 2024. I really thought I'd be a good mom. I could have been. I'd have been the best mother on earth if someone had just shown me how. But no one ever did. That's why I didn't know what to do. I knew what not to do. I learned that from my own mother. It was one rule, easy to follow. Just don't do anything she did. Don't scream at your kids for no reason. Don't hit them for any reason. Don't embarrass them in public. Don't tear them down. Don't let other people hurt them. Don't ignore them when they need you. Don't even ignore them when they want you. You're the most important person to your children. The most important person ever. So act like it. And don't ever, ever withhold food. Always feed your kids. Always feed them first. No matter what. Always. I knew what not to do. But knowing what not to do isn't the same as knowing what to do. I know that now. But I didn't know that when Amber was born. I was 15. My mom kicked me out. Told me I was still the same whore I'd always been, and to get out and never come back. So Amber's dad took me in. He definitely wasn't 15, but 15-year-olds can't rent apartments, so it was for the best. Only it wasn't. It wasn't for the best at all. But that doesn't matter. None of that matters. All that matters is Amber. I couldn't wait for her to be born. I couldn't wait to have a baby, to have my own family. Someone who would always be with me. Someone who would always need me. Someone who would always love me. Except when she finally got here, I didn't know what to do because no one ever showed me how. I didn't know what to do when she wouldn't sleep, or when she screamed until her little voice got raw, or when I couldn't make any milk, or when the formula made her sick, or when she had allergic reactions to her diapers. I just didn't know what to do. That's why I ended up doing what I wasn't supposed to do. I screamed at her, especially when her father screamed at me because she was screaming. Sometimes I left her alone in her crib in the closet when I couldn't take it anymore. I ignored her. I let her dad shriek at her until she was hysterical because it kept him from screaming at me. And when I got tired of her constant sick belly, I didn't feed her, sometimes for hours. Once or twice for a whole day, especially when she got older. But even though I did everything I wasn't supposed to do, she loved me anyway. And she loved me even more as she got older. Even when I didn't stop doing things I shouldn't do, she kept loving me. She still wanted to snuggle with me every night. She still wanted to share her toys with me and have pretend tea parties with me, and she still wanted me to curl her hair and make her pretty and take her to the playground and the bowling alley. She loved bowling. She couldn't even pick up a bowling ball. Not even the ones they make for kids. And if Amber had just been that way all the time, the snuggly, playful, pretty little mommy's girl who loved tea parties and playgrounds and bowling, I would have been the perfect mom without even trying. But she wasn't. In between those good times, she was a fucking monster. A screaming, petty, jealous, selfish, insecure little monster who took all of her anger out on me, just like her father. It wasn't her fault. She learned it from him. I let her learn it from him. I knew that. But knowing that didn't make it any easier for me. It definitely didn't make her behave any better. And the worse she got, the meaner her father got. I did everything I wasn't supposed to. I already told you that. But he did worse. So much worse. No wonder my baby girl was turning into a monster. But she didn't have to be a monster. Just like me, she had the potential for perfection. But just like me, no one had ever shown her how. I was a good mom in my heart, just a victim of circumstances. I thought if I changed my circumstances, I'd be a better mother, which would make Amber a better daughter. That's why I finally left her father. I knew leaving would make everything better. It didn't. No matter what I did, nothing got better. It only got worse. Amber was too horrible for the babysitters, so I couldn't keep a job. Without a job, I couldn't keep an apartment. I had no choice. I had to beg my mother to let me come home. My mother told me I was the problem, that I was the reason Amber was so horrible because she needed to escape me. And one day, she told me she had solved Amber's problem once and for all by calling Amber's father. I didn't think he'd come. Really. In fact, I knew he wouldn't come. He hated Amber. He hated me. He hated us. But he came to get her anyway. I didn't stop him. I didn't know how. No one ever showed me how. How can you do anything when you don't know how? Amber didn't want to go with him, but she listened when I said she had to. As he led her outside, she looked back at me. I could tell she was hoping I would come with her. She didn't look away until she reached the door. I think that's when she knew I wasn't going to follow, because the hope in her eyes went away. The light in her died as I watched. And then my dark, lightless little girl said to me, "Bye-bye, Mommy." And I knew I'd made a mistake. I knew it. That was the last time I ever saw my daughter. It was the biggest mistake I ever made, and I was so sorry. I spent 3 months trying to get her back, but her father wouldn't let me. He trespassed me from his house. He filed for custody. His mother told horrible stories about me and lies about things I did to Amber. She even told the court I was using drugs. I thought of Amber all the time. I remembered how perfect she could be, especially on the days we snuggled and had tea parties and went to the playground and curled her hair. I loved her hair. How soft and smooth, the way it shone in the sun like strands of light. I dreamed about her, too. Wonderful dreams where we lived in a beautiful sunny house in the country, with a giant backyard and orchards and a dog. She always wanted a dog, and the most delicious food for every single meal. Those dreams felt so real. More real than real. But one night, I had the worst dream I've ever had. It was about Amber. She wasn't perfect in the dream. She was scared. She was hurt. She was emaciated and crying as this horde of laughing monsters smothered her. And it felt real. More real than real. More real even than the perfect dreams. When I woke up, I called the police. I told a lie. I said my daughter had drowned in her father's pool. He didn't have a pool, but I knew it would make the ambulance come. Then I drove over to her father's house. I remember watching the clock. It took me exactly 37 minutes. By the time I got there, she was dead. She'd been dead a whole day. I saw her body as they were bringing it out. I can't. They brought her father's mother out in handcuffs. But he wasn't in handcuffs. Even though this was all his fault, he wasn't in handcuffs. I have never been so angry. I will never be so angry again. I launched myself at him with everything I had. He hit back hard enough to make my face explode. My eyesight turned red. Then it went dark. I felt bones and splinters of bones grinding in my face. But none of that mattered. All that mattered was my rage. I got up and hit him again. This time, he grabbed me and forced me across the yard, out into the street, and threw me down right as the ambulance with my daughter's body sped off. It hit me. Everything exploded then. I went asleep. I woke up in a house. The brightest, biggest, cleanest house, flooded with sunlight. There were orchards in the back. Greenhouses, too. A swing set in the yard. Even a dog, and a small white cat. I've always wanted a small white cat. It was perfect. Beyond perfect. The perfect house from all my dreams, with everything I could ever want. Everything, that is, except a family to live in it. I don't remember how I found my new daughter. Isn't that strange? All I remember are voices. Yelling. A woman yelling at this tiny, crying girl. I found her in a playground, in tears while her angry mother packed up a stroller. You don't want to come home? Fine, she raged. You stay here and play. I'm going home without you. Despite all that, I hesitated. I knew what to do now. I knew how to be a good mother. That meant I could show this lady how to be a good mother. Demonstrate the error of her ways. I could teach her to be better.
But why?
Why show her when no one had shown me? In the end, I had to exist with my choices. This woman would have lived with hers. So I went to the little girl while her useless mother ranted and raged and threw her things into her awful little car. The girl was scared of me at first. She even opened her mouth to scream. Without thinking, I took her hand in mine. Her scream turned to giggles. Don't be scared, I soothed. What's your favorite food? Cupcakes, she said shyly. Well, guess what? I have cupcakes at my house. 100 cupcakes, in every flavor ever. Want to go eat some? She nodded.
Yay.
We'll go right now. But first say goodbye to your mommy, so she doesn't worry. Obediently, she turned and said, Bye-bye, Mommy. The woman didn't even notice. That was all the proof I needed. She had no excuse. She didn't deserve her daughter, but I did. So I took the girl by the hand, her tiny, soft, trusting hand, and brought her home. Dinner was already on the table when we arrived. Roast chicken, smoked turkey, a spiral-cut ham, buttery bread sending tendrils of steam into the golden air, vegetables and fresh fruit and more milk than we would ever need, and a buffet of desserts on the counter. She ate so much. I'd never seen a child eat so much. I wondered if Amber would eat that much if she'd been there. When I thought of Amber, my heart hurt. And when my heart hurt, the house that changed, the light broke apart and bled darkness. The walls fell in against themselves, showing nothing but trees and deadfall. The moon replaced the sun, dim and sick and awful. Worst of all was the food. The turkey and the chicken and all the vegetables and desserts were gone, replaced with clods of dirt and moss crawling with ants. The little girl began to cry. Twigs and dirt and crumbled leaves came tumbling out of her mouth, and she started to choke. I reached for her, but she recoiled. She tried to scream, but all that came out was a whistle. Her little face was already turning purple. In that instant, I saw Amber's face. My old daughter superimposed over the new. And I knew what I had to do. I had to forget. I had to forgive myself. It's the only way to start fresh. To be the mother I'm meant to be. So that's what I did. I pushed Amber out of my mind. I cleared away the old with all of its regrets and scars and failures, and made room for the new. My pain faded, and with it the panic. The walls came back. So did the sun. Most importantly, so did the food. The little girl was still choking. I reached into her mouth, expecting to extract twigs or bugs or something even worse. My fingers touched something hard and slick. I steeled myself and pulled out a chicken bone, brown from the oven, slick with saliva, dangerous. But at least it wasn't a twig. My new daughter finished her dinner. She didn't eat dessert with her previous enthusiasm, but that was to be expected after her ordeal. Once she finished, I helped her brush her teeth. A new toothbrush appeared in the bathroom like it was waiting for her, put her in fresh pajamas, and laid her down to sleep. She was the perfect daughter, and I was the perfect mother. We had such a lovely time. Golden hours, golden days. It should have been perfect, and it almost was. Only something was still missing. And one day, as I watched my new daughter playing alone in the orchard, I realized what it was. A brother. So that night, after I tucked her into bed and made sure she was sleeping soundly, I went to find my son. While I was out, I heard so much. So many screaming mothers, so many bellowing fathers. And the children. I heard their sniffles and their wails. I felt the tears sliding down their faces as if they were my own. I wanted to save them all. But I knew, somehow, that they weren't mine to save. Not yet. A mother always knows her children, and I knew that I would know mine the moment I found him. I did. I found him at a bowling alley. Isn't that serendipitous? He was struggling with a bowling ball. He dropped it on his foot and began to cry. His mother rolled her eyes and yelled at him. Yelled at her poor, crying little boy who only wanted comfort. She didn't want to give comfort. But I did. Good mothers always comfort their children. I swept in while she complained. I dried his tears and told him to come with me. He didn't want to until I took his hand. Those quivering lips turned up into a smile, and just like that he was ready to come home. Before we go, I said, wave and say bye-bye, Mommy. Bye-bye, Mommy. You wouldn't possibly understand, but it was important for him to say the words. It gave his mother one last chance to come to her senses. A chance to take her child back. A chance to pass a final test and be the mother he needed. She failed. By failing, she made sure those words cut her bond with him. This needed to happen so that he could forge a bond with me, his new mother. My new daughter was overjoyed when she woke up in the morning to her new brother. They got along perfectly, just as I knew they would. A mother always knows these things. We had a wonderful, perfect day filled with playtime and crafts and games. And food, of course. A magnificent feast of all their favorite foods. Turkey sandwiches and potato chips, macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes, fried chicken and hot dogs, and every dessert you could imagine. That night, as I watched them sleep, my heart swelled. I'd done it. I was the perfect mother, just like I thought. The best mother any child could dream for. So, why shouldn't I have more children? After all, there were so many.
So many.
I'd seen them on my way to get my son. All the ones I'd left behind when I chose my son. How could a perfect mother leave any child behind? My heart ached for them. And when my heart aches, my home falls apart. But I recognized the signs this time. I felt the fault line in my heart as it began to open. Before my walls could fall, before the moon could die and my food turned to rot and ruin, I set out to find my third child. Secretly, I was worried. My heart was already so full and so big. I felt like if it got any bigger or any fuller, it would burst. Or that I simply wouldn't have enough love. Or that I would be overwhelmed like with my old daughter. That when this third child came, I would turn back into a bad mother. But I should have known better. I should have believed in myself. Everyone says your heart makes room for each new child, and they're right. That's how I knew that I had more children out there.
They were waiting for me.
I could feel it in my heart. So I went to find them, one by one. I brought them home with me, one by one. They grew up one by one. They grew old, one by one. They died one by one. That was the hardest part. My only solace was that they died as they'd lived. Happy, safe in my care, secure in my love. And besides, I'd learned my lesson long ago. To welcome the new, you must get rid of the old. If an old daughter dies, it just means it's time to find my new one. When you people found me, you took my children away. All of them, even the ones who have passed on. That made me angry.
So angry.
For so long. You know, if you'd taken Amber away, I probably would have understood. I wasn't living up to my potential then. I wasn't a good mother. But I am now. I am. And you still took all my children away. But even though I'm still angry, I have forgiven you. It just means I have room for new children now. Isn't that wonderful? It is. It's wonderful. Because I'm a wonderful mother now. A fantastic mother. A perfect mother. I am. I can show you. Let me show you. Just take my hand. That's all you have to do, sweetheart. Just take my hand. Just like that. That's right. Take my hand, and we'll go home. So anyway, right after this interview, literally right after, the inmate escaped. I don't even know how it happened. When she took my hand, it's like the world split open. Half of it was her cell, and half of it was this perfect country house. I felt the sunshine and the wind. I smelled soil, flower gardens. I even saw a little white cat sunning itself on the porch. Before I knew it, I was flat on the floor with my boss leaning over me as an unfamiliar voice raged in the background. Why the fuck was a T-class agent alone with that thing? Charlie? How you feeling? My boss asked, unsmiling. He's the staff psychiatrist. His name is Charlie. I call him Dr. Winger-eyed because he hates it. Oh, is she awake now? This third voice made me shudder. Deep and smooth but somehow raspy, halfway between a purr and a growl, with an accent thick enough to cut with a knife, and full of an awful hunger that sent my lizard brain into panic mode. Propelled by pure survival instinct, I shot up. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. One of the biggest men I've ever seen stood across from me, dressed in a violently purple jumpsuit. Meticulously groomed dark hair framed a wide-eyed face that was half brute, half porcelain doll, and wholly frightening. I couldn't tell how old he was. He could have been 40 or 60 or something else altogether. We made eye contact, and my insides turned to ice water. A vulpine smile split his face. Oh, he simpered. Look who's afraid of the big bad wolf. Shut up, Christoph, Dr. Winger-eyed said sharply. Right now. Or I'll put you back in your cell. Only if you can find that child-murdering bitch by yourself. The yeller shot back. We'll find her, all right? Charlie snapped. We know her hunting grounds. It'll take a day at most. But my brain was still processing his prior statement, struggling mightily against the electric terror flooding my body. A cell, he'd said. A cell. I'll put you back in your cell.
Why?
Before I could stop myself, I looked up at the man in purple. Are you an inmate? Guilty, he answered. Very guilt. Of that and many, many other things. I couldn't bear to look at him anymore, so I turned to Dr. Winger-eyed. Why is he out of his cell? It's not allowed. Inmates can't be out of their cells. Yeah, he's an inmate, Dr. Winger-eyed said. But I mean, he's also a T-class. What is a T-class? I shrieked. The inmate's smile widened. You did not read your handbook? Naughty, naughty. Dr. Winger-eyed glanced fearfully at the yeller, then gave me a pained look. Is that true? I could barely process the question through the adrenaline and fear. What handbook? The inmate began to laugh. Did you not get a handbook? The yeller asked. I shook my head. I ordered one for her, Dr. Winger-eyed said. For which class? T-class? There are no handbooks for T-class, the yeller said. While they argued, the inmate caught my eye again. I tried to ignore him, but it was about as effective as ignoring a tiger stalking you through a basement. We were supposed to talk tomorrow, you and I, he said. But now you got yourself in trouble. I don't think they'll let you. Too bad. I was looking forward to it. The relish in his voice made my skin crawl. Just get her out of here, the yeller said. She's about to piss her pants. And get her a goddamned V2 class handbook. Dr. Winger-eyed got me out of there. He also got me a goddamned V2 class handbook. And it is all kinds of fucked up.
There's too much to post right now.
Way too much. but I'm going to share the information about the employee classifications. They scare me. They prove I'm in the most massive trouble of my life. See, this whole time, I thought I was like a secret agent or something. Like I know I'm here under duress, but I don't know what I thought. I just know that I thought wrong. I also know that I am fucked. To prove my point, skim this Bat's hit excerpt on agent classes. Agent classifications. As an agent assigned to the Agency of Helping Hands, North American Special Containment Unit, AHH NASCU, your classification is either a warder or a member of the PN. While you serve as the first line of defense and the first point of contact for all inmates in your ward, you are only a small part of the agency as a whole. Your position at the Pantheon requires you to routinely work with agency personnel of different classes because multiple agents and divisions work together on different inmates. Therefore, it is important for you to understand the differing agent classifications, their purpose, and circumstances that require their assistance. Argonauts, A class. Field agents whose scope of duties most closely resemble that of traditional law enforcement agencies. They are typically considered monster hunters. Their primary duty is to assure capture and containment of agency targets at any cost. Varangians, V class. Undercover agents. Varangians infiltrate institutions and communities to protect people from agency-involved threats. Their primary duty is to protect human beings at any cost. Benandante, B class. Agents with the ability to operate on non-physical planes. Commonly referred to as bennies. Their roles and responsibilities vary greatly. For example, a Benandante is currently assigned to identifying the location and nature of the Harlequins City Bright. Another is currently on loan to the White House. These agents are very rare, very elite, and very highly paid. They are given the most personal and professional discretion of any professional classification within the Agency of Helping Hands. Most other agents never encounter a Benandante over the course of their career. Their primary duties vary based on assignment. Varder, V2 class. Agents who are caretakers of inmates, essentially prison guards and other staff assigned to NASCU. Their primary goal is to prevent containment breach at any cost. Calderons, C class. Agents who are priests, priestesses, monks, nuns, imams, rabbis, and other members of religious orders who possess unusual talents. Commonly referred to as Ranis, the classification takes its name from Pedro Ruiz Calderon, a Catholic priest who possessed mastery of numerous unorthodox skills and who was eventually executed for his work. His descendant, Hansel Calderon de Cortez, was among the original team commissioned to capture Mr. Helping Hands. Their primary duty varies on assignment. Sefkets, S class. Agents who serve as researchers, scientists, record keepers, librarians, and archaeologists. Their primary duties vary based on assignment. The PN, P class. The PN is the agency's medical division. It includes doctors, surgeons, nurses, and other personnel to treat agency employees and inmates. Their primary duty is to provide care to all individuals associated with or incarcerated in AHH NASCU at any cost. The SE, T class. Agents with abilities that require dynamism classification. In other words, agents whose abilities necessitate incarceration at NASCU. Once identified, they are required to either join the agency or submit to termination. The SE functions similarly to K-9 units and are always partnered with an Argonaut or Varangian. When not in the field, the SE are housed inside NASCU to ensure their continued compliance with agency directives. Their primary duty is the protection of their Argonaut or Varangian partner at any cost. Failure to perform their duties may result in termination.